Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. I'm super excited to be with you all here today. This is our Think and Grow Rich, and I gotta tell you, I have been enjoying teaching it this year. Um, Many of you might remember next month will make 5 years. Every time I teach this class, I think about how my father passed away in the middle of the class, and we had to pause the class for like 2 months. And it's interesting because at first, the class itself, not the content, but the class itself made me really sad. And because it reminded me of that time of my life. And now it's like over the last couple of years, I've really reclaimed the class and been able to enjoy teaching it since he passed away, taking back what the enemy stole through grief, right? And it's because I just think about how I heeded the voice of the Spirit dropping into my heart and telling me, you need to tell your dad you love him. You need to reach out to your dad. And I'm teaching and I text him. Some of you have heard this before, but just bear with me because some people haven't heard the story. But I'm teaching and I don't remember what lesson it was. I don't remember what lesson it was, but I know it was it might even have been this one. I don't know. But I just know that it was so heavy on my heart. You need to reach out to your dad. You need to reach out to your dad. And I texted him, but he didn't respond. And I Facebooked him and he didn't respond. And it's like, okay, that's the limit of what I can do and still teach a class. Like I can talk and pull up his Facebook profile and then during a pause in my talking, a strategic pause for effect so you can think about what I just said. I can do a real quick, hey dad, love you. I can do that. But he wasn't responding. So I actually stopped the class, y'all. I stopped the class. And the sad part for me is I've got people who remember it. Like I've got the texts and the emails like asking people, "Hey, did y'all ever download that class? Do you remember that class? Do you have that class?" And people are like, "No, but I remember it, so I know it happened." Because I have proof that they remember it happening. But I literally paused the class that some people paid up to $500 to be in. I literally paused the class so I could call my dad and leave him a voicemail. And he got back to me later, and that was the last I heard from him ever, ever. And so, I think it's really appropriate that this is coming to my mind today as we talk about the lesson on faith, right? Because it's by faith that said, okay, I feel like this is the Spirit and I'm going to follow this leading, even though I'm risking alienating people who, 5 years ago, I was still active duty Air Force. I wasn't routinely, well, actually, by then, I think I was routinely selling classes for $500 a pop. But that November, actually, now that I think about it, that November when this happened, that was my first $20,000 month since the divorce when me and my ex-husband used to routinely have 20 and $30,000 a month, which was pretty good for being both of us being in the military and running our real estate business on the side. Like that was actually pretty good. We wasted a lot of money. We didn't even have kids at that time. And then even when we did start to have kids, we divorced when Philip was 3. So like, I mean, like we were just wasting money. I shudder now to think of all the money we could have kept with all those transactions. So that's why I'm a big fan of buy and hold now. But anyway, what we're here to talk about today is we're here to talk about Think and Grow Rich. But first, I'm not Julie Chen Moonves. But first, I've got a announcement. Me and my little one, we are cast in a production called The Promise. And if you come, oops, wrong page. That's the people's. It's about the life of Jesus, and I know everybody's got differences of faith and everything like that. I know that tolerant people who stand firm in their faith but want to hear other opinions and other thoughts. who aren't intimidated by other thoughts. They tend to attract a lot of different types of people. So I know we have different types of people. But if you are of like faith as me, and you would like to do something special to celebrate the birth of Jesus, I want to encourage you to come out and see me and my son in this production. Really see him, because I'm kind of like in the back on the sideline. Like, my voice helps make the ensemble. I'm not even gonna pretend it doesn't, because I'm there for a reason. The producer put me in there for a reason. All right. And I may not ever sing a solo, but I'm a good choir member. Okay. And the experience is making me a stronger choir member, because normally I sing what the people around me sing. But here you've got tenors next to altos, next to sopranos, and you got to figure it out. Like, you have to hold your note. And I don't always get it right. Sometimes I drop right into whatever the next person next to me is singing. But the way I figure it, as long as I'm not off key, it's okay. But it's also causing me to practice more and being able to retain the note myself when the others around me are singing something else. And so but Gabe, he's really all in it. He's got 3 different costume changes, and he is just so serious about it. You got to come see him, and make sure you text me when you do, because he is a little guy. And so if we don't know that we got friends in the audience, we don't go up top with the rest of the cast to greet the audience after the show. We get in the car, and I make him a bed in the back of the car. I buckle him in, and then I get him home. Okay. But if we know you're there, we'll wait. And there's a code. Let me drop it in the chat. Okay, there is a code, friends and fam 24. That's $5 off of every ticket you use. So a child's ticket is $13. It's going to take 5 off of that. Whatever other ticket you buy is 5 off of that. And I'm going to give you a plug. We are celebrating Cubby's birthday that last show. So if you want to come a little early before the last show, if you want to come to Glen Rose at about, well, we're not sure if it's going to be Glen Rose or Granbury, but probably about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, we're going to do something special for him. And we would love, if you're in the area, we would love to have you come join us, because he also auditioned for the Christmas show, which has rehearsal that day. And I was like, well, this was supposed to be your birthday party, but it's not going to be your birthday party. So if anybody wants to come show up and just hug a little guy's face, it will make him feel so special. Okay. So that's my little announcement. I have, let's see what else. Oh, y'all. Next week, 2 of my favorite events to speak at, other than my church conference, is I will be speaking at the, Okay, I will be speaking at the All Black National Conference in Chicago. Okay, before that is FinCon. I am not slated to speak at FinCon. In fact, the people at FinCon were like, girl, you haven't updated your website in 2 years and everything is broken. I'm like, I know, I'm getting there. But we had all these legal issues and all this and all that. And I didn't want to update the whole website or pay somebody else to update the whole website and then turn around and rebrand it with the new stuff once the legal issues were over. And so now the dust is settling on the legal issues, and now we're finally going to roll things out. But I could have done better. I know I could. So I'm not technically speaking at FinCon, but you better believe me and my mic are going to show up, and we're going to take some good content and some good footage, and we're going to do some interviews. And just like I always do, y'all, at every event I go to, I make sure the people in charge know, if you need a pinch hit this day, or this day that I'm here, put me in, coach. I will do the thing, and I will make you look good as a planner. Okay, so I'm not technically speaking at FinCon, but I expect one way or another, whether I'm leading a lunch or whether I'm speaking on a stage or sitting in a guest as a panelist or something to that effect, I will be speaking at FinCon. All right. Let's get into this lesson on faith. And you know what? I left my book at my office. I'm just going to have to order some more books. Okay. So I'm going to use this one today. So what I have, let me show y'all a PDF of this. Okay. And I would use the PDF, but I know me. I will forget to go back from the PDF screen to your screen. And StreamYard has been getting kind of wonky lately with different things. Like, for sure, when it comes to YouTube, if I'm showing you a YouTube video, I can't actually watch the StreamYard. I have to be on the YouTube page. It used to be I could set it and then I could come back and interact with you in the comments. Nope, you can't do that anymore. All right. So I'm a little bummed about that, but that's how it is. And we just have to get around it. Okay. I have on Amazon, let's see if I can share screen. I have on Amazon a print copy of the original version. I bought the license, even though technically you can take the original version and you can reproduce it. It's got no copyright anymore. uh, I did buy a license to be able to reproduce it just to be safe because I liked the way that this particular individual formatted it. And so this is the book. Can y'all see that? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. This is the book that you'll find in your course, or if you buy the hard copy on Amazon, you'll find it there as well. Okay. And this book is really cool because it's got these line numbers for every chapter, which makes it really easy to follow along. And it makes it really easy for us to all be on the same page. And when you're teaching, to be able to say what page this and what page that. So I'm going to stop sharing this, stop sharing. Okay. And I'm going to try to use that in my teaching. But if I can't get that to work, then I'm going to drop back and use this one because all of my print copies of that, I've either sold them or they're at the office downtown. So I got to fix that. But in any event, you know, I think I probably said that last week. I probably said it last week and then didn't act on it. You know, faith is the substance. Faith is the substance. If you really have faith, then I should see substance. And the substance is the results of your faith. So if I really have faith that I'm going to sell a lot of people into this class, I probably should have bought some more replenishment of the book and kept one here. I really am trying to get to where I will start teaching in the office and not here. But for now, here I am. Okay. So if y'all hear me clicking, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find that chapter. I'm trying to scroll to that chapter. I guess I could have just gone to the table of contents. I was trying to be slick and then I realized, no, I'm probably just annoying everybody by clicking. Okay, here we go. Oh, I was right there. I just went a page too far. Oh, okay. Let's go back. Yeah, it's a big fat book. I really want to do an update of it, and oh, that's why, because that page there is all blank. Okay, I'll figure that out later. Sorry, y'all. Uh, I really want to do an update of the book, but Amazon goes like a pendulum where they sometimes, there we go, faith, where they sometimes they don't want you to publish public domain works, and then they crack down on it, and then when you want to publish public domain works, you stop publishing them. Well, somebody, like 2 years later, everybody's publishing them again. So I have to figure out the right sweet spot to do that, because I want to put all the guides, like for example, let me show you this one. No, I'm not going to show you that one. But like I have worksheets and things like that in the course portal. I'd like to put all of those into the book, but it's already this thick. So I'm not sure if we can do that, but I'd like to. So y'all keep me in prayer, right? That the Lord, because that's one of the things. That's one of the things I'm having to learn how to do, y'all. I have so many different ideas, and I have so many different ideas that could be awesome, and I have so many different ideas that somebody else could do and really make a lot of money with, but for me, they're just a distraction. So that's where I am at in my journey, is learning what things are distractions. And one of the things that is helping me with that is sometimes hiring it out. Like I have, oh, let's try this. Okay, instead of me taking the time to do that, let me pay somebody to spend their time doing that, and let's see if it works. And then I'm still rolling on doing the things that I bring to the table, that I'm best suited for, that I give the best energy to my business for, and then somebody else is doing it. And I was resistant to that at first. Now, I don't know why I'm saying this, because it has nothing to do with what I'm going to teach you on today. But I was really resistant at first to allowing somebody else to test out ideas for me, because I remember being the person in the Air Force where the boss would give a project and you would work so hard on it. And then by the time you brought it back to him or her, they had moved on. Or the general would say, I'd really like somebody to explore this. And so your boss says, hey, the general wants somebody to explore this. We want you to explore this. And you explore it and you deliver it on time and you do an amazing package. but the general's even forgot either forgotten that he or she said it, or they have moved on to something else that's more important, or whatever you produced was what they asked for, but it doesn't fit the need or the mission. So in essence, you feel like you wasted your time. And one of the things I learned when I was in Apple, when I was in charge of an applied research branch out at Ditra, is that I learned that even when something doesn't work out, it's not a waste of time. Even when something doesn't work out, it's not a waste of time. Now, if it's an idea that comes to distract you and you bite off on it and don't do what you're supposed to do, that could be a waste of time. But exploring the idea, or in this case, paying somebody else to explore the idea, is not a waste of time. It's an exploration, and it's going to do one of two things. It's going to either it's most likely going to reinforce that you really are in the spirit and you do have ideas, that the Lord does download ideas to you, right? And the other thing that it can do is, if that idea is not for you specifically, you have now set somebody up in the future who is going to take what you did and roll with it. But that doesn't mean that the you did has to be individually you yourself. Okay. Somebody out there is taking on way too much, and you've got to let some of that go. And you're afraid to let it go because you know if you have the next big idea and you let it go, somebody else is going to get that idea. That is how ideas work. So if you don't have the capacity, or if you're like me, you get energy from coming up with new things and exploring new things, but you've really been working on that doctorate for 5 years and you need to wrap that stuff up, wrap the stuff up and let somebody else pursue it. And then you still own it. Make them sign a non-disclosure or something like that, NDA. Okay. Don't allow amazing things to be a distraction from what you need to do, because a good entrepreneur has a good idea every day, sometimes amazing ideas a couple times a day. Doesn't mean they're all for you to execute, especially if you find yourself using other stuff to distract you or be an excuse for not doing the things you know you don't want to do, but you should do. All right. So we're going to talk about faith tonight. And this is another big one. I mean, we really could do the whole teaching today on just the first couple of lines of this chapter, okay? And again, for those of you who are just joining me, if I'm looking a little wonky, it's because I don't have my physical big book. I have my little book, but my little book doesn't have the cool numbers, okay? So maybe what I can do is just actually show it to you as I read it. How about that? I can do that. Okay. Is there a way I can make this bigger? Like full screen it? Ooh. Okay. So can y'all see that? All right. So he says, faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, puts it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. Now, those of you who have not walked with me in these studies before, you may not know that I take a slightly different take on infinite intelligence, God being the grand overall designer, the universal spirit. I take a very different approach to those things than a lot of people do in the business world. And the reason I do is because when I find in writings like this, where they use the phrase infinite intelligence, okay? Let me close that faith search so faith doesn't keep being but when I find that when people do things like they say infinite intelligence, what they are trying to do is make it palatable to you because you think they're talking about God the Father, Jesus Christ. Okay. And they may be. Some of the masters of the great writings of the 1900s, some of them may indeed be talking about God the Father, who has a son named Jesus and sends a Holy Spirit for us, right? And so if you're not of my faith today, what I'm about to say may not matter to you, but it does matter deeply to me. 99 times out of 100, probably 999 times out of 1,000, When somebody talks about God in these overarching grand terms, they are not the people who write his name G-D or write his name Yah or write his name some other euphemism rather than saying the Lord or saying God. If they were the kind of people that did that, I don't think I would have such an issue. But what a lot of people are doing when they do that, y'all, some of you aren't going to come back to my channel anymore, and it's okay. I love you anyway. Well, when some people do that, the real thing they're doing is trying to mask who they're really plugging into. Because it is a true statement that the way that the Lord designed this universe is that everybody is connected and everything is energy. We're all connected. If a great idea pops into my mind, I have the choice to accept or reject it. If I accept it but don't move on it, or if I reject it, either way, it eventually goes to somebody else, and someone else will execute, and someone else will get that. And sometimes it feels like the universe does throw spaghetti at the wall to see who sticks. Like 10 people get the same idea, but one will actually execute. 10 lepers got healed by Jesus. Only one came back to say thank you, right? And so, Dr. George Fraser, he runs this power networking conference. It's one of my favorites every year. I love bringing my boys to it because I love them being inspired that people who look like them can succeed more and not just be thugs and gangsters and rappers and football stars, right? Like basketball stars. Like they can actually be businessmen and businesswomen. Well, my sons are not going to be businesswomen. I mean, they might, but I'm not expecting that out of them. This conversation is going to go downhill fast. Let me rip myself right back to what I was talking about. He says he doesn't mind giving out his number because he knows that most people won't call. And in a lot of these conferences and a lot of these things, there's a whole lot of people that won't take action. And so the universe is designed to spread that energy, and we're all connected on some level. On some level, okay? And I've talked about from a physics standpoint. I used to say air, and then I realized I was saying air just to make it easy for people to understand. But it's not air, okay? So in this cup feels really hard, okay? You probably hear me banging on it, right? But but this cup is really made up of more space. Let's call it space instead of air. This cup is made up of more space and more movement than anything. Because inside the molecules that make the metal, and inside the molecules that make this coating, and inside the molecules of makeup encrusted straw, inside the molecules of all these things, there are electrons and neutrons and protons, and for the most part things are moving, energy is being exhibited or not, and there's movement and there's space. To us, it seems like things are stationary, but they're not stationary. This thing is in a constant state of flux. And there's a resonance energy with this thing. I could put exactly the right energy at exactly the right repetitive frequency to this thing, and it would explode on me. It would be like, woo, 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 and just like, and if you've never heard of this concept of resonance, look up the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, right? And so I know that this is going to hurt some people's feelings because the universe is designed that way by who I call God in my life. A lot of people who want to harness the power of humanity and supernatural influence, even if they don't call it that, they will tell you they're talking about God by capitalizing the titles and by calling, I used to love it. I actually loved it until I realized that the people who were saying it don't love the Lord, or they don't even pretend to love the Lord behind closed doors. They would call God the grand overall designer. And I thought that was so cool because it's kind of true, right? But what I realized what they were doing is they were trying to skirt the issue of how sometimes the ideas that come to us are not the Lord. That's why one of my phrases, one of my rules for living is you don't have to believe every thought you think. You don't have to believe every thought you think. Some thoughts are fiery darts of the enemy. They come into your mind and you're like, oh man, I'm this and I'm that. And all it does is discourage you and tear you down. That's not from the Lord. The Bible tells me, my favorite book tells me that when the Lord chastens me, he upbraids not. That means he doesn't beat you upside the head. He simply chastens you in a loving manner, like us as parents should chasten our kids in a loving manner. Some of us didn't learn that growing up, and it took us a little time. Might be the only one in here that resembles that remark, but I know for me, it took a little time of parenting to learn how to not just upbraid my kids when I chasten them, how to chasten them in love, right? Some of us aren't used to that. So when that evil, critical, mean voice comes to us, we just accept it because it sounds right because we're so used to it. Well, some of my highest achievers, y'all, have grown up in situations where all they got all their life was criticism, 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 criticism. And so when that critical voice comes, they just yield to it. It's normal. It's what they're used to. It's what feels right. And so some of us have to learn how to hear a different voice. And some of us have to learn that every thought that comes to us, every idea that comes to us, every notion that comes to us is not necessarily the Lord. I already told you sometimes ideas come and they might just be the enemy trying to distract us. And I'm getting to the point where I'm better at discerning those things. And when I'm not sure, but I don't want to miss out, and the Lord's not giving me leading, because a lot of times He will give me leading. I just don't want to hear it, right? Like I'll be in prayer, like, Lord, should I do this? And the Spirit will be screaming, no. And I'll be like, but Lord, should I do this? No. But Lord, shouldn't I do this? No. Now, those times I don't hire somebody to do it because I already know. But the ones where the Spirit's just silent, and it's almost like the Lord is saying, choose, make a decision, do something yourself or don't do something yourself. But don't put that on me. You grown, do it yourself. Now, I'm not saying that's what the Spirit says. I'm saying sometimes the Spirit is silent and, and you have to make a choice to do or not to. And I'm finding out more and more it's about not doing, but that's because I'm an overdoer. If you're somebody who's been sitting on the sidelines with all these great ideas, it's time for you to rise up and take action. Okay. So I want you to understand that when we talk about this concept of infinite intelligence, okay? This concept of infinite intelligence. And so he says here, he says faith is the head chemist of the mind. All right, let me put it back up for you. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration and translates it into its spiritual equivalent and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. Now, I gave you the caution on that. For my purposes, when I use these phrases or I see that when he writes it, I am thinking about the Lord my God. Okay. And it's true when we have something that comes up, we get an idea, when we our faith comes in with that idea and we really grab hold of that idea, things begin to change in the subconscious realm, and then it begins that subconscious back and forth in the communion in our human spirit with God's Spirit in prayer. Okay, now he says now, before I talk about what he says, Wallace Wattles, who is the writer behind the study of authentic abundance. Wait, you can't see me, can you? Oh, you can. Okay. Authentic abundance is based on the work of Wallace D. Wattles. He says, um, that prayer is the movement that takes place between the finite mind of man and the infinite mind of God. Okay. And so it's the communication channel. I'm not 100% sold on the definition, but I like that a lot better than what the current wind of thought is going on today about prayer. Because the current wind of thought today about prayer, meditation, and all that kind of thing is that in order to really hear from God, you sit and you empty your minds and you just receive. You empty, empty, empty. And there are times where we receive. We don't just blah, 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 blah for 2 hours before the Lord. a lot of times we blah 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 blah. Then the Spirit tells us what it is we really need to be praying for, and then the Lord begins to download things to us, right? But there is room in our lives, especially for very busy people, for that very still prayer where we are just waiting to receive. But that is not an everyday thing. Prayer is supposed to be, especially prayer in the Spirit, it is a communication channel open between me and the Lord. You transmit to him, he transmits to you. Kind of like we're doing here, right? Like when when I first started teaching this, we weren't really online a whole lot. I think I started doing the class on the phone. And then I think the last class before the pandemic, the last class or two, we did online and it worked well, but everybody wasn't familiar with it, right? But it's a communication channel. This is a communication channel. I am communicating to you. You can drop something. Please drop something. You can drop something in the comments. In fact, while we're talking about it, go ahead and communicate to me. Drop something in the comments. Let me know if this is resonating with you. Let me know how you're feeling about the content. And that's a way we can transmit to each other. We can connect with each other. Okay. What he's saying here in these first four lines is really a model for thinking. It's a model of how we think and a model of how we communicate with the Lord, with the mind of God. And you think about when we did the initial lesson, we did the initial lesson on the pitfalls, and then we did a lesson on the introduction of this book. And we kind of introduced this idea that we are spiritual beings gifted with a personality, our soul, living in a physical body. So the body, so it's a three-part model of man: body, soul, and spirit. Okay, we call it, it's taught heavily in Watchman Nee, and it's based on several scriptures that distinguish the body from the soul from the spirit. Or sometimes there's one scripture that's all three of them. Okay, the man in three parts. So that this intellect is part of our soul, our emotion. It's the seat of our personality. And so we have ideas. Oh, you can't see me. So we have ideas, okay? We have these ideas that we become aware of in our mind, and we say, well, where did these ideas come from? And we'll talk some more about this, okay? But certainly through our human spirit, we can become aware of an idea, okay? And it's our expectation that idea will move into what we call a result. So from the spirit to us, to our intellectual personality, and then being expressed in the physical body, okay? And so when we read this that we're talking about with Napoleon Hill, faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, so we have to blend faith with the vibration of thought to achieve the highest level. Now, you notice what I was saying earlier about this three-part model of man, right? The the download comes into our spirit. Depending on our spirituality or lack thereof, the download might come into our soul. It might just be an intellectual thing. Sometimes we get downloads in our feelings. We don't understand why we feel it, but we feel it. Okay. And so the download comes in there, and now we have to do something with it with our body. And sometimes the do something is letting it go because we realize it's a distraction from the enemy, or we realize it's not really something that's going to be fruitful for us. My favorite book says that everything is lawful, but not everything builds me up, and not everything is going to be encouraging, and I'm not going to be allow myself to be brought under the power of any. So if a thought comes to me and it just keeps coming and coming and coming to me, and it's basically trying to capture me into that thought, well, that's something I'm going to resist being brought under the power of. When it comes to ideas in our business, however, it's just like any other spiritual component. It's got to get through our personality and our soul before it can be brought out in the body and created. The Lord give me an idea for a cup that's going to bless his people, and gonna filter the water out so that people in third world countries, they just have to fill the cup, and the cartridges, like today's cartridges last a week. Well, downloads me an idea to make a cartridge that lasts a year. Like, I'm just making this up as I go along. All right. But if the Lord gives me that idea, but I got a sluggish personality, I got the kind of personality that's been so hurt before that I refuse, that I don't refuse. I dream about it, I wish about it, I think about it, I wish I could, I hope I could. I might one day, when I feel everything's all right and all the right things align, get around to actually doing it. Well, that idea needs to be mixed with a lot more faith. And what the faith does, as the head chemist of the mind, is it translates and transcends that idea. Because if I've been too sluggish all my life and all my good ideas have been picked up by somebody else because I never moved on them, then I don't have the faith it takes to go make the new water bottle. I mean, I don't have the history. I don't have the intensity. I don't have the experience. All I have is a long life littered with failed project after failed project. And some of you know what I'm talking about. I am not the only one in this environment. Either you're watching me live or you're watching me later. I know I am not the only one that has ever packed up truck loads of stuff, trunk loads of crafting materials, trunk loads of projects that I started in all of my excitement and never ever finished. And I mean, when I took that stuff to the rescue mission, y'all, some of those projects were 25 years old. As in, I started those things when I was in grad school. I had fabric that I had found, and unique fabrics that I had found in grad school, been sitting in the closet for 20 years, 25 years, 27, 30 years. And some of us, the good ideas of our soul, the good ideas that can move our lives forward, the good ideas that could help us feel better about ourselves, because those good ideas would help us treat us better. They're just gone by the wayside. And that's where we need faith to come in and to change our mind. Not just put a band-aid on it, not just go to a conference and get, oh, I'm empowered for 5 minutes and then we get back to real life, but like a literal change. A change that, instead of saying, nope, they're all going to laugh at me, says, well, you know what? They might laugh at me, but I'm going to do it anyway. A change that says, well, I don't know how to accomplish this thing. I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, I don't have the training. I'm just not going to even try, because if I can't do it right, I'm not going to try. If I can't do it well, I'm not even going to try. If I can't do it perfectly, I'm not even going to try. Faith can change that, like a chemical reaction. Change it into, well, I don't have the resources, but if God brought me to it, he'll bring me through it. I don't have the money in my hand to make this happen, but if God really gave me this idea, by the time I get to where I need the money, he will send somebody with the money. I may not have this skill set, but by the time I get to where I need it, he will send somebody with the money. I mean, with the skill set. It's the chemistry that needs to change in our mind. And so that's one of the things that's so powerful about this concept of faith. See, he's sending here, what he's suggesting is, we get this idea, we take it, and we mix it with our faith, and we're sending it back up to him through our communion with him through spirit. So the ideas come from spirit to us, and then we get the idea and we get to add to it and add to it and add to it. We get to work with it, and then we send it back up. We spend it back up. And then we pray about it. Is this what you asked? Is this what you asked for? Is this what you're giving me? And that's really what prayer is, isn't it? We're getting an idea, we're sending it to God, we're asking God for help. We're expecting that he's going to answer. And a lot of times we expect him to answer, back in the form of, send me a sign. That original prayer request is coming through a desire from, often from the source. And I want to make a caveat here, okay? um, you know, I don't believe that, I said it before in case you were just now joining me late. I don't believe that all ideas flow from God. My favorite book tells us there are those who tap into ideas of evil. There are those who seek out evil ways to use good things. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. He established the universe and the universal laws through which energy and ideas flow. He established those laws, and those laws work whether you believe in him or not. And we established in a past class that if you really look at the science of it, we are connected through these universal laws. That's why you can think of somebody and then all of a sudden they call you. You can have an amazing idea. And guess what? Somebody across the world has the same idea at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to remind you that a lot of business gurus and motivational speakers will teach you there's only one source of supply and ideas, and they're going to imply to you that it's the Lord. And in their life, it is not the Lord. Okay. We're not going to dig in tonight into who and what they're tapping into. Okay. But if you are a person of faith and that is of concern to you and opening yourself to ideas, then before you open yourself to ideas with a concern in your faith, go watch my lesson in the portal about a special note to believers, because I'm going to show you how to filter these things out. Not only when it comes to the ideas, not only when it comes to the leanings in your heart, but also topics like autosuggestion and the sixth sense and things like that. Y'all, John 4:1 says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they're of God, because there are many false prophets that have gone out into the world." So we have to take care of that. All right. So now, for the rest of our discussion, I know somebody's like, look, I've been on since the beginning. You done hit that 3 or 4 times now, but repetition is key. Repetition is key in learning. All right. But the rest of our discussion then requires that when the idea has come to you, you, person of faith, you have evaluated it through the lens of scripture. Okay. You've evaluated it through the lens of scripture, and you have ensured that it does not contract scripture. You have laid it at the foot of the cross to ensure it aligns with God's perfect will for you. Okay. You know, I, I take 2 Corinthians 10:5 very seriously. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing to captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. A lot of people use that to manipulate Christians into denying the power of their intellect and their imagination. Okay. God created imagination. Don't tell me that I'm not supposed to use it. He put it in there. He wouldn't have given it to us if he didn't want us to use them, right? But what it really means is to evaluate the ideas, because every idea that comes to you is not yours. Do not believe every thought you think. It means to evaluate those thoughts, cast down anything that's inconsistent with the will of God as expressed in prayer. And I'm telling you this as somebody with so many ideas. And I'm telling you, I had an amazing idea for the rebranding of my business. And I think it took me about 4 or 5 years just kind of testing it out. Like, well, Lord, society has changed. And what was modest back then is not modest. No. What was not modest back then is modest now. And, society has changed, and maybe it's okay for me to do this thing. I know that this thing would be a lot of money. It's a great branding. It's a great book. But every time I get back to it, it's like, that is not appropriate for the child of God. I'm like, yeah, but it's I got all the things. I got it all. And I'm like, it doesn't pass the submit test. It doesn't pass the scripture test. It doesn't pass the casting down test. It doesn't pass the, what is that? What does that scripture says? It does. We had to cast down all things that align themselves against the knowledge of God. We have to bring to captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Every thought. Every thought that comes to your mind, you have to decide whether or not you are going to believe it. You do not have to believe every thought you think. You do not have to believe every thought you think. Some thoughts that come to you are designed to distract you. Some thoughts that come to you are designed to tear you down. Some thoughts that come to you are designed to stop you in your tracks. Some thoughts that come to you are designed to move your life forward. And it's up to you to discern which is which. And sometimes if we have been so in environments over and over again where we can't trust what we think, then you have to start small and start with little things and really lay them out before the Lord. Get into your scriptures and really just find things to move forward on. There was a general that came to speak at our university one time when I was I was the chief of the CAG, and so we did all the protocol, we did all the special projects, and this guy came and spoke. And one of the things he said is, when you're make your bed every morning. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's a waste of my time. I'm just gonna come home and get right back into it. Why do I need to make it? So I'm like in my office, right? And I'm like listening to this, like not doing that. Wasting my time. I got other things to do. Like the 30 seconds it takes to pull a comforter to and adjust my pillow. Like that's a big waste of my time, right? But he went on to say, if you decide in your mind you're gonna make your bed, you're gonna brush your teeth. Like, do we have to decide that? Yes, you have to decide that because you know what? There's gonna come a morning when you're not gonna want to brush your teeth. I'm gonna make my bed. I'm gonna brush my teeth. I'm gonna do boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna whatever it was that he said. I forget the things that he said, but I know in my life it's study my Bible, pray, wash up, exercise. Like I try to do all those things before I leave the house. Don't always make it, but I try to, especially the last couple of weeks with us being in this production, right? Being in this production, it takes up the weekend, so then I'm playing catch up and tired during the week. But he said by the time you leave for work, you have accomplished 10 to 15 things every day. You have done the things. And what you are doing is you are telling your mind that you are a person who does the thing. And I sat there, I was like, ooh, that's really powerful. I might start making my bed. I'm sure my husband appreciates that. All right. So anyway, with the foundation, it's already 45 minutes in, but with the foundation, um, I'm going to share with you, and we could take a huge, much deeper dive with all this. Okay, y'all know that this book has been very influential in my life, and so um, I can talk about it all day. But I'm going to just share with you. Looking at the time, I'm going to share with you one concept that's really important for us to walk away with when we consider the role of faith. Okay, so let me get some paper and let me get my different colored markers ready. Okay, so now I have two red markers on the floor. Okay, now I'm gonna have to fix that. Okay, I'm gonna move my phones here. And let's see, what color are we gonna make Stickman today? This is a very neat concept called Stickman. So we're just gonna let this big old head here represent our mind. Okay, that's our mind. It's gonna represent our mind. Okay, and we can say that there's two parts to our mind. We can say that there's a conscious part and then a non-conscious part. Okay, conscious part and a non-conscious part, and each of these parts do different things. So I'm going to write conscious. Let's make sure that I can spell that right. C-O-N. There's no spell check on a piece of paper. C-O-N-S-C-I-O-U-S. That looks about right. We're going to roll with it. You probably won't be able to see the actual, no, you actually will. Non C-I-O-U-S. Okay, so we got the conscious mind and we got the non-conscious mind. Okay, so our conscious mind is kind of our thinking mind, and that's where we have the ideas. It's where our awareness. All right, it's where our ideas come in, and that's where we have our awareness, and we know what's going on. Okay. And then our non-conscious mind is really our emotional mind, our feeling mind. And here's the thing, our subconscious mind, in that subconscious mind, the non-conscious mind, is stored all of the programming, all of the experiences, everything we've learned and all the information we've collected and gathered, all the baggage, everything is here. Everything is here. And it's positive and negative. Everything you experience, emotion and experiential. So our awareness is going to also be our thinking mind. Okay. So we have our awareness and our emotion. Okay, when we're thinking actively about something, we're using the conscious brain. When we're feeling and we're reacting to our feelings, that's the function of our non-conscious brain. Okay. Some will say that our non-conscious mind is collecting data even at birth. Now, I'm going to try to show you this really quickly. If I can't pull it up really quickly, we're just not going to do it. Okay. So womb boot music, baby's jam session. All right, let's make that big. And then let's see if I can share this while I'm talking to you. Now, remember, oh, wait, I need to make that a different window. Otherwise, I can't get back to StreamYard. Okay, there we go. And then I can come over here and stop sharing that. And now I'm going to share YouTube. Share. Okay. And while I'm talking to you on this, okay, so if I leave it like that, it looks like it'll still work. Let's see if it'll still work as I play it. Sometimes YouTube won't. What you're looking at is my baby.
Okay, I feel him moving a whole lot, but that
Okay,
cell
let me
phone
turn
is not moving like it normally does.
Now, of course, this is so his personality because normally this phone is rocking everywhere. Okay. But you do see that he's starting to respond to the music. Okay. This child who has the personality now, he'll be doing something amazing. And you put the camera on him and he'll be like, see if you can make me move now. Right. This child, if he did not get his nightly music when it was time to go to bed, he would not go to bed. He would kick and punch and roll around and make me very uncomfortable until I played him his music. And you can see here, he's moving around. You can see how he's responding. I am not moving. That is all the baby moving in response to this music. And I'm telling you, this was a benign night. I was trying to capture it for his dad because I was stationed in a different state. And what you see is just a smidge of how much that phone used to always be moving. And a lot of times he would knock it off my belly and I'd have to put it back on. Okay. And so what this tells me is some of the things that we are going on are actually pressed upon us in the womb. Even today, he wants to have that bonding time at night. It's just part of how he is. But he already established that in the womb. And so for us, that time in the womb is part of his non-conscious brain. Because you can't tell me he didn't have a personality. I know very clearly anytime that I tried to go to sleep without doing that, that child would not let me go to sleep. He was going to punch and kick and throw a tantrum until he got his wind down music for the night. Okay. And there were two different songs that we usually did. And that was the one that was most common because it was always up there. So some of these things that have happened to us, some of these things, now don't hear what I'm not saying, okay? I am not saying I want you to go back and dig for such things, okay? That is not what I'm saying. I don't want you going back to try to dig to what happened to you when you were in the womb, whatever. I don't want you to try and do all of that, okay? But I want you to understand that things happen. And sometimes we don't understand. We don't understand why we behave the way we behave. But there's things that have been stored by our non-conscious mind since we were in the womb. And when it comes time for the big meeting, we may not consciously be aware of a similarity between the situation in the big meeting and something that happened when we were younger and don't remember it consciously, but our emotions remember it. And so then we self-sabotage the meeting. Or we finally get the call with the big boss and then we can't speak. We finally get the big opportunity. And then instead of going to sleep the night before, we're so nervous and so worried about it that we stay up all night and then we can't maximize that opportunity. Okay. There's this very real thing that's going on. Okay. Excuse me. And again, I, I know the womb story is a little interesting, but the doctors used to say, and I don't know if they still do, but if you wanted a happy baby, strive to have a happy, reduced stress pregnancy. So because it matters. So we're talking about this idea. We have an idea in our conscious mind. Okay. We turn them back over into our spiritual center, which is connected more emotionally, and it's not the emotions. Okay, I want to make sure we're clear about that. In fact, I'll draw this here. I'll draw the three-part model of man here for you. Body, soul, and spirit. Okay, so the three-part model of man: body, soul, and spirit. You can see that: body, soul, and spirit. Okay, we get an idea. The idea implants itself in our brain. Our brain is part of our soul. The soul is the part of our personality. I'm going to write that down. All my Bible study members are going to be like, wow, she found a way to bring that chart even into her secular class. Yeah, I love this chart. Okay, the soul is our affections, our desires, the things we want out of life. The affections are the things we love. Desires, the things we want out of life. The will, what we will do and what we won't do. Okay, our emotions, which are so fickle. Don't believe your emotions. You remember how I said don't believe every thought that you think? Don't believe every emotion you have either. Don't dismiss your emotions, but don't automatically believe them. Okay, and then your intellect. Those are the faculties of the soul: affections, desires, will, emotions, and intellect. And we get this idea, and that's great and all. We think it's from the Lord, but we got to turn it back over to the Lord. And we do that in our spiritual connection in our soul. Now, notice the spiritual connection is buried within the soul. I mean, in our spirit. We turn it back over to the Lord by prayer and communication with the Lord in our spiritual center. Okay. Notice that the spiritual center is encased in the soul, the affections, the desires, the will, the emotion, the intellect, and all of that's encased in the body. So now you have this great idea and you're trying to flesh it out with the Lord in prayer or just confirm that it is for you. First of all, you got to get through the personality. And guess what? Some of us, our affections and our desires have been so seared by the things that have happened to us that we don't even dare to dream anymore. And so this idea, this amazing idea, this great idea that you're going to go and change the world with, that the Lord has called you to go and change the world with, it comes to you and you're like, oh, this is going to be so amazing. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do this. And the very first thing it does is it hits your intellect. We can't do that. Remember when we tried to do this and we tried to do that and we failed and we lost money? Oh, no, 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 we can't do that. Then it hits your emotions. Remember how everybody laughed at us when we had the other idea? No, 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 we can't do that. And then you say, well, I'm going to willpower through it. Well, guess what? Your willpower is not an infinite source of energy. It's not the spirit. If you're operating in the spirit, you tapped into the infinite source of energy, you know? But the will is not infinite. It's part of your soul. It's part of your personality. That's why your willpower doesn't last too long. It constantly has to be regenerated. But we don't know that. We think everything is spiritual and everything is spiritual. No, some things are soulical. That's why the role of faith is so important, because faith is the chemist that translates the things that we feel or think in the soulical part of our personality and actually translates them into spiritual goodness that the Lord can then either approve or disapprove or change or tweak, and then we can move out on in faith. And faith makes that role. Okay. And so, we get ideas from all kinds of things. Okay. Now, I got to be careful how I draw this, because the last time I drew this, it looked like horns. And I'm not trying to draw horns, okay? In fact, maybe I'll just draw two. Maybe I can make them look more like little antennas here. Like a little radar dish. Oh, that is okay, it's ever since I married a man who teaches middle school, I'll look at things a little differently. All right, let's see if I can fix that up. Okay. Okay, so we got these little antennas on top of our head. Okay. and they are look like party hats, but I'd rather look like party hats than what it first looked like. Okay, um, we've got these antennas on our head, and they are constantly receiving information. They're receiving from other people. They're receiving things that we see, things that we hear, things that we touch. They are inputting information. So each of these little dots could really be the five senses: our taste, touch, smell, hearing, um, sight. Yeah, yeah. That's the five of them. Okay. So information in comes from a lot of sources. Senses is one of them: sight, smell, taste, touch, boom, 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 and hearing. Okay. Senses. That's not good spelling, but that's okay. So one is the senses. That's one area that info comes into our conscious mind. Another one is spiritual. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with ideas from other people or ideas from the world, because that's why God gave us those faculties. Okay. Spiritual. But the thing is, another way that we can get ideas is our past programming. What? And that is definitely not spelled right. Programming. R-O-gramming. Our past programming. Because what happens in our body is it can set up a loop, a thought loop. Okay? Our past programming, our past belief. Oh, that's just who we are. That's never going to work. Nope, nope, nope. Positive and negative. Sometimes we get information from our past programming, and guess what? Guess what? Other than the spiritual, these can be fooled, and this can absolutely be fooled. Okay? And so the problem for us is this past programming, the way it gets stored in our non-conscious brain, the stronger the emotion, either positive or, especially for most of us, negative. They're more, it's not like they're more charged, but we pay more attention because there's more pain associated with the negative emotions: guilt, fear, shame, anger. We'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure a lot of times. Okay. And so, for us, we want to understand that there is a role of faith in keeping us from continuing to be bound by our past, and sometimes being fooled by our inputs, because everything we see isn't real, especially in today's world. Filters are cute, yes, but it ain't real. Okay. And so I I think what I'm going to do is stop there. There is so much more that I want to say on this. I want to talk about synthetic faith. I want to talk about blind faith. I want to talk about all the things. I want to talk about shame and fear. Okay. However, we are at the end of our time. So, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a private group where we'll record the rest of the lessons and discussion on faith, and then I'll upload it to the class. So if you are interested in getting those teachings, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you are uh, in my mailing list. Okay. And so I'm going to actually copy the my link for you. Um, and you're just going to have to clink it. Well, I wonder if I have list. Let me see. Let me see if I have JJC link/list. I cannot type today. List. Let's see if that works. Does that take you to the keep page, or is that the old one? No. Oh my goodness, I got to fix that. Oh, that's horrible. I really got to fix that. Okay. The company that I use for that, they've changed they've changed. I use Rebrandly, and they've changed whether or not you can just change the URLs without paying, right? So I gotta figure that out. But you can cut and paste this link that I'm about to put on here. It's a lot. It's a lot. I get it. It's a lot. Okay. Um, but just cut and paste it into your browser, and that will take you to my mailing list. And not only will you get my free book, but when I schedule this free session, you'll already get access. Okay. So that's the first thing you need to do is, if you know you want to continue this discussion on faith, doesn't cost you anything. You just need to subscribe to my list. Okay. And then when I record it, whether it's tomorrow or Monday or maybe even Tuesday, when I record the lessons, the rest of the lessons on faith, you will be invited, and you'll receive an email from me that says your Zoom credentials or your access pass or something like that whenever I schedule it. And then we'll work through the rest of this content. And then I will upload that into the portal, which I have the long, I don't know why I did that. I had the long thing here, but actually the short version of it is jjclink.com/tagger5, TAGR for Think and Grow Rich, the number 5, because that's the version of this that we're doing. So let me see if I can put that in the chat for you. jjclink.com/TAGR5. Okay. Let me pop that up there on the screen. Okay. So that there, TAGR5, that link will actually take you to the class, which is, while I'm teaching, for those of you who are new to how I do my classes, while I'm teaching the class is cheaper for you to get into the lifetime access of the class than it is if you wait till after the class is fully built out. Because right now, all the lessons aren't in there. I'm teaching them, and I put them in there after I'm done teaching them. But once it's a full class, it's a full price. So you're going to want to go ahead and get in there. But if you know you want to continue this discussion on faith, and you absolutely, absolutely want to go ahead and get on my mailing list so that you can get notified when I do that teaching. Now, I do want to encourage you, see if I can share this real quick. I do want to encourage you to sign up for the class. I'm going to show you what it's going to look like so that you can see it and feel confident that you're in the right spot. Oh, that's my screenshot. That's not me. Where's my StreamYard? There we go. I want to share you that. Let me remove the book and let me share that. Window. There it is. Yeah. So this is it here. I forgot to change the pricing. Y'all better jump on this. This was supposed to be $99, and I didn't change the price last week. Y'all better jump on that, because I'm about to go in there and change it. And then when it's done being, once it's midnight, I'm going to change it to $199. You know, I'll just leave it $49 until midnight, and then I'm going to change it to $199. Okay. But I encourage you to go in here, because you're going to get some benefits. Okay. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see that? You're going to get some bonuses. Okay. Some bonuses that you're going to get if you go into this class rather than just watching the free classes online. You're going to get the self-confidence formula. This is a faith growth sheet. When you use this worksheet, this growth sheet, it is going to move you forward every time you use it. And you use it throughout the duration of this class, and you're going to be amazed, okay, with how your faith has grown. Even if you're already a person of great faith, there's always room for more faith, okay? And then the other bonus you're going to get is a 50% off coupon for our self-image rising class. Now, we usually in December do countdown to your best year ever. But once we kick off the new year, we're going to kick off our self-image rising class. It's our kickoff for this year. And in this class, you're going to get an electronic copy of this book, you know, which is our workbook for the class. This class, Self-Image Rising, is based on the book Cyber Psychonetics by Maxwell Maltz. Where's his name? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I got it right. Maxwell Maltz. And this is not a public domain book, so I can't publish this one for you. but the workbook sheets and the worksheets and the auto suggestion and all that kind of stuff is all in here. And you get an electronic copy in your course, or you can go order it, and you can order this book. I like this edition of it. It's kind of a nice looking little book. Okay. But this is the book that Self-Image Rising is based on, about how we really can't outperform our self-image, and how it's up to us to increase our self-image so we can increase our life to have the life that we desire. I'll put that later. Okay. All righty. So you're gonna, no, I didn't mean to remove it. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. So you're gonna get a 50% off coupon for that when you finish these other lessons. Okay. All righty. Well, I appreciate y'all hanging with me. Again, make sure you get on my mailing list so that when I teach the faith class, if the internet is working, lately out here, our internet has been wonky. And so some days it's working and some days it's not. If it's not, I'll just record talking to myself. But I love talking with students, and I love talking with peers, and I love talking with clients, and I love talking with mentors. So if you are in any of those categories, which basically should be everybody watching or listening to me at this point, if you're in one of those categories, I would love for you to be out there. And if you are listening to this as part of the podcast and you can't see the links, then you can go to jjclink.com/tagr5. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to figure out, let me see if I can do this real quick. Just hang with me for a second. Hang with me. I'm going to search for list. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can edit this, because there's some things I can edit and there's some things that I can't edit. Okay. I cannot edit that without, I can't edit that, but here's what I can do. Okay, give me a second, okay? Y'all give me a second, because I don't want to leave without putting this up. Okay, edit that. This is list. Okay, save link. Okay, now can I create a new link? Let me copy this. Copy link address. This is a website called Rebrandly. It's like Bitly, but you could use your own URL to make your brandings. It's really cool. Okay. Okay. Let's try it. Create link. Yeah, it worked. Okay. So you can go. So I fixed it. So you can go now. I'm going to put it on there on the StreamYard. Thank you for hanging with me. Okay. You can go out to, so I have to make sure that we've got this on here. So you can go out to, is that there? There we go. You can go out to jjclink.com/list. That's jjclink.com/list. And you can go to jjclink.com/list and you can join my mailing list. Okay. And then you'll get notified whenever I'm able to actually teach the rest of this lesson in a closed group session. And then we're going to upload it to the course. So if you can't make it, but you have access to the course, then that's a win-win anyway, right? But normally when I do something like this, you don't get an opportunity to come back for free and get in on that extra recording. I just do it and I drop them into the course. But I think it would be a lot of fun to allow you to come with me on that journey. So the first thing you got to do, if you want to continue the rest of this teaching and you want to hear more about the role of faith, about synthetic faith and blind faith and some of these other things that faith does or does not do for us, okay, then you want to make sure you are subscribed jjclink.com/list. Okay. All righty. And so I think that's all I've got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed. Thank you for watching. I know that your most precious resource is your time, and I'm honored that you spend your time with me. And if you are listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, then I want to encourage you to join us Thursday nights We're thinking of changing it to the day, but right now we're still at nights every Thursday, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and we have these teachings, and you can ask your questions at no charge, and your questions might even be featured on the Ladies of Wealth podcast. We extract a lot of this content for the podcast as applicable. Excuse me, as applicable. And we'd love to have you come join us live. I'm happy if you subscribe to the podcast. Don't get me wrong. We lost a few subscribers that long time when I went over the summer when I was traveling. We didn't, people were like, you know what? I haven't seen anything from her in the last 3 months. Delete. So we got to rebuild that back up. I'm glad for the faithful. John Deloney calls his the OG 17, right? I'm thankful for my OG 17 right now. I'm glad you hung in there, and I think one of them is me. And the other one probably my mom, maybe even my sister. I might hope that one is my son. So the rest of y'all, the 13 of the others, I just appreciate you very much. But seriously though, we have some good traction on the podcast for having been gone for so long. But this is how we're either interviewing or we're teaching, and that's how we get the podcast content. So if you want to be interviewed, reach out to me. We're going to start those back up again soon. And if you are listening on the podcast, be sure to join us live every Thursday night. This time, that's all I've got for you is today. For real, for real, for real, for real. Y'all take care and be blessed.